Okay, everybody, good morning. Hello and welcome to the September morning meetup of the Arts and Culture Accessibility Cooperative, Accessibility in Unique Spaces. My name is Megan Harms and I'm the Arts and Culture Coordinator with Mind's Eye, and I will be your facilitator today. I am a white woman in my early 40s with long gray hair. I happen to be wearing a dress with dragons on it today. This webinar will be recorded and emailed to all the registrants in a few days. Along with the recording, you'll also receive a list of resources and a survey. The video will also be available on Mind's Eye's YouTube channel. Today, we'll be using the Q&A box as well as the raise your hand function. Please feel free to go ahead and drop your questions into the Q&A box throughout the presentation, and we'll try to get through as many as we can after we have completed those presentations. During the Q&A time, you may also raise your hand if you want to actually speak out loud, and we'll give you permission to turn on your microphones. That would be on a Windows device, that's Alt-Y, and on Mac, that's Option-Y to turn your mic on. Closed captions are also available via Communication Access Real-Time Translation. Just select the CC button on your bottom toolbar. We also have American Sign Language interpreters with us. They will be spotlighted to ensure they remain on screen throughout the webinar for the recording. For best viewing, we recommend hiding non-video participants by clicking the three dots at the top right corner of any participant box. You may also want to pin the interpreters to make sure they stay on your screen. Their names are Hannah and Chantal. So find them and pin them. If you want to see the speakers as well as the interpreter, please switch to gallery mode. And I see that someone is calling me repeatedly right now. So that's probably one of the guests that have not currently joined this webinar. So we'll hold on that. Live audio description is also available. Just click the interpretation button near the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. It's a globe. Then choose audio description from the list of languages. So there's a drop-down box with languages listed. If you are on a phone or a device with a small screen, you might have to hit the More button to get to the interpretation box. And you also must join the meeting audio through your computer audio for audio description. You cannot listen to language interpretation if you use the dial-in or call me phone audio features. Chat to everyone has been disabled because of its interference with screen readers. You may still chat directly with panelists or to me as the host. And as I mentioned, you will receive a survey after this webinar, both through Zoom and the email I send out. Zoom will send an auto email with the survey, but then I'll also send it in the big survey or the big email with all the resources. Your feedback is really helpful to us and to our funders, so please take a few minutes to complete that. If you aren't already a member of our Facebook group, you can find us at facebook.com/ACACSTL. We would like to acknowledge that Mind's Eye is located in Belleville, Illinois, the ancestral lands of many people, including the tribes commonly known as the Sioux, Quapaw, Miamia, Osage, Kaskaskia, and Kickapoo. We also acknowledge those tribes who passed near our area during their forced removal, including the Cherokee, Delaware, Sac and Fox, and Shawnee. The process of knowing and acknowledging the ground beneath our feet is a way of honoring and expressing gratitude for the people on this land before us. This is a map of the St. Louis area with several overlapping colors, each representing a different tribe that lived on this land before us. And you can find that interactive map at native-land.ca. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator for today. Andrea Purnell serves as the Audience Development Manager with the St. Louis Art Museum, where she assists in implementing diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives to increase the museum's audience profile. Andrea has had success professionally in her career, both as an artist and as an arts administrator. She has been engaged in public outreach and media relations, appearing in numerous local broadcasts and artistic performances. She serves as an appointed commissioner with both the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis and the Fluorescent Disabilities Commission. And Andrea, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome. And Andrea is going to introduce our panelists.
Hello and good morning. Thank you so much, Megan, for the warm introduction, and to Mind's Eye for the opportunity to facilitate today's very important conversation. I am an African-American woman with long brown hair, a black jacket, and pink lipstick. Disability awareness is a topic that is very close to my heart. Access for all is not just important, it's in fact necessary. What better way to explore accessibility in unique places than to hear from representatives of our local pillar arts cultural organizations? So without further ado, let's meet today's panelist. Adam Flores is the manager of community engagement and education at the St. Louis Shakespeare Festival. Adam is an actor, director, producer, and educator specializing in community engagement. Jennifer Wolff is the manager of interpretation and has served the Botanical Garden for 21 years in areas of informal education, exhibits, communication, events, and leads the Natural Connections Interpretations Initiative. She manages the planning, development, design, construction, fabrication, installation, and implementation of garden-wide interpretive strategies and personalized learning experiences. She works cross-divisionally and with external consultants to evaluate program impacts. Jennifer has oversight to interpretive venues, including Brookings Exploring Center, Children's Garden, Tower Grove House, and the Plant Lab. We'll also hear from Karen. Karen Goering is the Managing Director for Administration and Operations of the Missouri Historical Society. She serves as the project director for the renovation and revitalization of the Soldiers Memorial and Court of Honor from 2014 to 18. She previously worked to incorporate universal design as project director for the renovation of the former United Hebrew Temple into the Library and Research Center from 98 to 91. Goering has held various positions at MHS, including Chief Curator and Director of Museum and Public Programs. Mary has more than 40 years experience in every facet of tourism development, having served as Director of Hotel Sales and Marketing for Gale Tax Hotel Corporation, Vice President for the Kingsport Chamber of Commerce Convention and Visitors Bureau, as well as Executive Director for the East Tennessee Marketing Partnership involving more than 90 communities. Mary is Special Projects Chair for Daryl's Dream Boundless Playground at Warehouse Path Park and has served as Project Vice Chair, managing fundraising campaigns and overall site development and construction since 2004. It grew into a $4 million multi-phase project, complete with a playground. Last year, Daryl's Dream hosted over 178,000 visitors. Mary's involvement with this project meant so much. And I want to say that it was motivated by her sister, who has cerebral palsy. Growing up watching her experience and the daily challenges of life that have kept her immensely grounded and grateful for all the things that most people take for granted. And likewise, she saw firsthand the inequities of accessibility for children and adults and wanted to do all that she could to make a positive change. Wow. Well, I don't have to tell you, we are in for a treat today from these amazing, amazing panelists. And we drew straws to figure out who would go first. And Karen won. Karen, if we can hear from you, it would be indeed our pleasure. I'll turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Karen Goering. I'm a middle-aged woman with short gray hair and round glasses. And I want to talk this morning about the renovation and transformation of the Soldiers Memorial Military Museum. This is located in downtown St. Louis. Following World War I, the city of St. Louis wanted to memorialize the 1,075 individuals, let's see, that had given their lives during World War I. And the city was working on transforming downtown at that time. And in 1923, there was an $87 million bond issue that was intended to implement the concept of the City Beautiful movement. Many, many monumental public buildings came out of that bond issue, including civil courts. And the 14th proposition, and amazingly, all but one of the propositions passed, was $6 million for Memorial Plaza and the building. Now, $6 million was intended to create a 7-block park area directly north of Market between what is now Tucker and 15th Street. The land needed to be cleared of residences and businesses. And this work, which took a number of years, ended up utilizing the funds available from the bond issue. The architectural planning was done for the Soldiers Memorial, but there was no money left to construct it.
A picture of a press conference at Soldiers
Administration came about in the following decade. St. Louis had a shovel-ready project, and the Soldiers Memorial building project was authorized. President Franklin Roosevelt came to St. Louis to dedicate the site in 1936, and the building opened to the public in 1938.
A picture of Lincoln Roosevelt at a press conference.
Walker Hancock created 4 monumental sculptures outside of the building, 2 on the north and 2 on the south. They were named Courage, Loyalty, Sacrifice, and Vision. Many of the civic activities occurred at Soldiers Memorial for the next several decades. It was a gathering place. This is an image of a large crowd of people celebrating, and it was the night that word came to St. Louis of the surrender of the Japanese forces during World War II. And this was the logical place for people to gather. But it was also a gathering place for parades, military ceremonies, later concerts and picnics. The following World War II, immediately off of Market, they created a court of honor to honor those that gave their lives during World War II. And in later years, they added additional memorials to those that sacrificed their lives in Korea and then in Vietnam.
A view of downtown St. Louis from Soldiers Memorial.
Now, over the ensuing years, funds to maintain Soldiers Memorial, because it was owned and operated by the city, became scarce. And quite a bit of maintenance and upkeep ended up being deferred. In 2010, Some local philanthropists visited the site and were concerned that the Soldiers Memorial did not appropriately honor the veterans and their families from this region. Architect Gene Mackey III was brought into the planning process, and the Missouri Historical Society was approached in 2012 about whether it had any interest in taking over the operations of the memorial. A long period of due diligence ensued, and in 2014, the Historical Society agreed to manage the operation and a much needed renovation of the Soldiers Memorial. Now, in order for a private nonprofit to renovate and manage the city-owned building, the Board of Aldermen had to pass an ordinance, which was done unanimously in 2015. The construction began immediately thereafter, and the grand opening occurred in November of 2018. I mentioned there was a lot of deferred maintenance, and this is not a complaint about the city. It was just a recognition that the facility was pretty much the way it had been designed and opened in the 1930s. Funds had not been available to update. So there were advantages and disadvantages. The advantages were that when the building was constructed, it used the best materials. It had a beautiful design. This is an elevator, the original elevator to the building, that has bas-relief sculptures of World War I servicemen. But when we took over operations of the building in 2015, this elevator did not meet any code standards. It still required physically opening the doors, pulling a grate across, and then entering. It regularly broke down, and it needed to be completely reconstructed. One of the best things that we did when we took over the management of Soldiers Memorial was put together a advisory panel to assist us with the design, with the reimagining of the two blocks, the Soldiers Memorial and the Court of Honor. And we were very honored to have two local disability advocates coordinate this work with us. And while everyone that served was absolutely incredible, I want to particularly recognize David Newberger and Stan Brown for their contributions.
A group sits around the conference room.
Reimagining the space meant thinking about ways that Soldiers Memorial and the gardens could essentially be accessible to everyone, because they weren't. You had to access stairs to go to anything. There was not ways to enter the Court of Honor from the memorial without the ability to utilize stairs. And there was also this incredible physical barrier between the two parts of the complex. Chestnut, as it ran between the two blocks, was 80 feet wide. And it included not only vehicular traffic, but also diagonal parking on both sides. And so it, quite frankly, was a very dangerous proposition to go from the memorial to the Court of Honor. With the reimagining, we did a number of things, including taking Chestnut and putting it on a road diet. It went from 80 feet to 25 feet. In this image, you will see that we worked with the designers to create bump outs to make travel between the two parts of the complex much safer, a much shorter distance. Throughout the building, we worked with updated accessibility. And here you see the push panels, and working with our team, we learned that rather than just doing the traditional button that you often see, that when we're working with universal design, that we should go with a full length panel, so that if someone can use an elbow, they can enter it. If they need to use their foot, they can still enter it. And these were installed outside each of the galleries. On the second floor of the soldiers, we had quite a challenge because it is actually designed on two different levels. And there was a ramp, but it was at a very rakish angle and it was not safe, did not meet ADA. And what we ended up doing was putting in a lift that would allow people to access the rest of the second floor. We incorporated universal design and accessibility wherever we could in the exhibitions as well. And there is a model of each of the Walker Hancock sculptures within the exhibits that can be handled and touched for individuals, designed for individuals with low vision, but very popular with school children and others as well. We also incorporated throughout the exhibitions tactile photographs of some of the larger wall murals that individuals can feel. The major
A man in a wheelchair.
Illustrations and maps have this tactile photographs. I mentioned the safe crossings earlier, bringing it down from essentially 6 lanes of traffic to 1 and a bicycle lane.
In front of Soldiers Memorial.
We have wayfinding that once again is tactile to make the information available to a wider audience. And wayfinding has been incorporated throughout. Probably the thing that we are proudest of with the Soldiers Memorial is the new ramp that is located essentially at Chestnut and 13th. The city had constructed a ramp at the northwest corner of the facility in 2007 and 8. But when we were meeting with the disability panel, one of the things that became very obvious was how offended our disabled veterans were that they had to enter through the back door. And Stanley Brown, who is the president of the metro area Disabled Veterans of America, Paralyzed Veterans of America, talked with us about the single most important thing that we could do was to create a pathway so that individuals could enter through the front door. And this was not something that was originally envisioned, but it quickly became a high priority. And we worked with the committee, with the architects, with the engineers, and were able to accomplish this. And quite frankly, it's a good example of universal design serving everyone, because we find that not only do people who need a ramp because they're on crutches or dependent on a wheelchair use it, but family groups use it. It's very popular with families with strollers, etc. We are, again, very, very grateful to the contributions to design that we were able to incorporate, thanks to the input from our accessibility committee and the many, many physical changes to the building to take this architectural treasure and basically make it serviceable for decades to come in ways that it hadn't been, because accessibility was not on people's minds in the 1930s. In addition to the things such as the power assisted doors and the new elevator that was put in that allowed access to all 3 levels of the building, we were able to create much more additional exhibition space in the building, because the cities had various offices in the building that took up almost an entire floor. And now the entire 2-block area is dedicated to serving the public and being accessible. Thank you.
Karen, thank you for that very informative presentation. You're right, accessibility was not in the minds of those in 1930s, but it sure is top of mind for you and your leadership and folks over there today. So we thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, next, we will hear from Mary Steadman with Warriors Path State Park, who's the Daryl's Dream Boundless Playground Project Chair. Mary?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I enjoyed your presentation, Karen. That's wonderful. I have a father who was in World War II, so that it's very exciting to see you doing that. I am a white woman, and I have long brown hair, middle-aged as well, but a little coloring to hide that a little bit. And I have red glasses on. And I'm going to be speaking to you today about the Warriors Path Park Boundless Playground, which is a little bit more than just a playground, quite frankly. I'm going to bring up full screen my presentation, so we'll kind of walk through it. And I sometimes get a little fast, so I can see that many of you deal with this every day. This is something I came into through my volunteer effort. And so if I get a little fast, someone please slow me down. So basically, first, talking about the Daryl's Dream Boundless Playground. I'm really going to be talking to you about the Lions Narnia Braille Trail, but I wanted you to understand that it is part of an overall complex. And so firstly, to kind of talk to you a little bit, we started back in 2000, the idea about needing a playground in the area at our park, at our state park. I'd started an organization there through my tourism efforts, and to look at ways to advocate and develop the park. And as we started looking at playgrounds across the country, we learned about Jonathan's Dream up in Maine, and it served children with special needs, with and without special needs. And so we really wanted to create something like that. And I guess with my sisters, growing up with my sister, that was important. So it is a one-of-a-kind playground and an outdoor classroom. At the time first phase was constructed, it was the only boundless playground structure in a state park in the nation. It offers age-specific and developmentally appropriate play equipment for children of all abilities. In addition, the complex hosts a special surface that makes it accessible to all the areas, including the Lions Narnia Braille Trail, an environmental interactive maze with learning stations, the Anderson Tree House with an interactive nature and history exhibits, a wildflower walk, a sensory herb garden, the Palmer Center Foundation Amphitheater, and rain gardens. Our objectives, of course, were to address the intellectual, physical, emotional, and social needs of the children, including children with physical, sensory, learning, and developmental disabilities. So being this was not my background, I have learned a great deal about disabilities that I was so unaware of. The Boundless play area and the surrounding walking trails provides an inviting place where diverse groups in our community will meet for social, recreation, and intergenerational interaction. In fact, our Lions Narnia Braille Trail has become a popular outing for some of our nursing homes to bring their seniors that are blind or visually impaired to come and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy the story as they walk around the Lions Narnia Trail. This was a collaborative effort, the entire project, every phase of it from start to finish, which ensured thoughtful design elements, diverse community connections, new programming options, and a community-wide support. In fact, how the Lions Narnia Braille Trail came to be was I was speaking to the Lions Club at their lunch meeting, and we were trying to share with the community what's happening, and we want to involve folks. And then they did research and located a trail in Colorado that was based, it was in a park, but it was more nature driven. And then they, of course, came up with the entire idea of the Lions Narnia Trail.
Hey,
Again,
hey Mary, I'm sorry, this is Megan. We do not see your slideshow.
You don't?
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, forgive me.
I know you had great stuff in there, so I wanted to make sure everybody can see it.
Okay, sorry. Let me see. Let me get out of here. Hang on just a second. Forgive me. I did not know that. Let me see. Share. I don't know why I'm not sharing here. Sorry, folks. I did not realize that. Is it sharing now?
No.
I don't know why it's not sharing because I'm hitting share.
Do you see the options for your different screens?
Yep.
It's not just me, right? Nobody else can see your slideshow.
No, we
Okay.
can't. Mary, hey, here's a Zoom trick. How about you unshare and then try and share? Oh, there we go. Looks like you got it.
We got it back
We're good.
now.
Yeah.
I am
Thank you.
so sorry, folks. Forgive me. Okay,
Perfect.
I am so sorry. So gone through a little bit of this, but this kind of shows you the entire park here with regards to the photo as far as the interactive trails and things that kind of connects everything together. So I won't revise that, of course. And then some of the play areas that we have and some of the things that we specially designed for children interaction. But again, going back to our objectives, we wanted a facility that would create programming opportunities for community organizations that could serve children with special needs. During the summer months, we wanted the park staff to be able to work with organizations to bring children with disabilities to the park for summer camps, which was not being done. The play area also created a new community-based recreational therapy opportunity for patients at area rehabilitation centers and provide recreational therapists a location for both inpatient and outpatient therapy. In order to best meet the needs of children with disabilities, our play area provided several unique features not found in any other playgrounds in our region at the time. These features add accessibility, but generally at a much higher cost, as I'm sure you all are aware. The surface matting, for example, that provided unlimited access to the play areas and all the ramping versus stairways so that wheelchairs could have accessibility. Emphasis on place on design elements that encourage creative and imaginative play and a sensory rich landscape design with artistic contributions. And finally, in order to ensure that the play area will appeal to all children with and without disabilities, ask for their input as part of the design process. So a lot of children, we had programs across our entire region where children of all ages and their parents came together and gave us input on the design of this facility. We did partner with National Center of Boundless Playgrounds. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with them. They were the first national nonprofit dedicated to helping communities create extraordinary playgrounds where children with and without disabilities could develop essential skills or life as they learn to play together. Obviously, our main focus is being that play that matters, barrier-free play matters, and providing developmental advantage matters. I will say that they worked with us on the initial playground area, which consists of a 2 to 5-year-old play section, a 5 to 12-year-old play section, a sand island, and an interactive maze area. Everything beyond that came after working with them and consulting with them. So here are the different phases. You can kind of see phase 1 was 2004 to 2007 was the playground. The Lions Narnia Trail opened right after that in 2009. We then added the Anderson Treehouse with fully accessible nature and history interactive interpretive trail leading up to the treehouse. Then we added a Palmer Center Foundation Amphitheater and Northeast Tennessee Master Gardener's Rain Garden. And then lastly, the Lions International Omni Spinner. That was, of course, very important also for a particular part of child development. Again, our emphasis being that every child could reach the highest play deck and also the tree house. The play structures were configured to support children's development. There were universally accessible pathways and surfacing and ramping throughout the entire complex, so there was nothing inaccessible. The equipment like swings and bouncers all had back supports and restraints, elevated sand tables and activity panels where children of all abilities could play together. And of course, you can see there is a picture of the sand island where there's a ramping system for wheelchairs to get in the area to play with the sand, but not so they could actually have sand tables to play. And then, of course, sensory rich activities that led to the imagination soar. And then again, mainly to have everyone in the middle of fun. So that kind of leads us then to the Lions Narnia Trail, which I think was Megan's original interest for me to speak about. And again, special thanks to the Lions Club who helped us put that together. And I'd like to acknowledge Doug Hasseltine, who worked with me very closely on this, and then later came work with me on a lot of other things that we added with the treehouse and the interactive history and treehouse trail and the rain gardens and the wildflower walk. We made all of those Braille accessible as well. So the theme on this is based on The Lions, the Witch, and the Wardrobe fantasy by C.S. Lewis. The trail features 8 sensory stations along with a 1/4-mile wheelchair accessible Braille trail. And of course, here visitors follow the story of Aslan the lion, and each station has an exhibit, a large print sign with Braille, and a speaker button that activates an audio theatrical recording. So I'm going to right now just share with you this recording. And Megan, if it doesn't go the full size, let me know, okay? Let's see, maybe I think I did. Let me do this.
Since opening 2 years.
Hang on, sorry, give me 1 second.
Since opening 2 years ago, Daryl's dream Boundless Playground at Warriors Path State Park has attracted thousands of visitors. Now there's a new trail at the playground based on the C.S. Lewis novel, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. His digital journalist, Philip Merle, discovered the Lion's Narnia Braille Trail brings this famous children's story to life for everyone.
Inside Daryl's dream Boundless Playground lies another world.
This is Station 7, the White Witch's Courtyard.
A place where kids can be kids. a land without limitations.
What's your name? Me? Yeah, Sarah Ship. Why do you have a cane? I can't see. I'm legally blind.
Tuesday, Sarah Ship and many others get to walk a new trail at the playground inside Warriors Path State Park.
So the wardrobe started this whole thing.
You see, it's not just a trail to walk down. It's a journey that can take anyone who is willing into a secret world.
It is a quarter-mile, wheelchair-accessible trail that surrounds the playground area, goes out into the woods, crosses a creek a couple of times, and is based on the story, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
There are 8 sensory stations that visitors can stop at to either hear the story
Children.
or read it in Braille.
We think it's important to remove barriers for people who are blind and visually impaired, and to remove those barriers so they can play right alongside and learn from one another with their friends.
Now Sarah can experience a book she has cherished for years, a story she has only ever heard on a CD.
I'm doing what Lucy did. Smell the mothballs?
No one's imagination is ever limited by their sense of sight.
Nice.
In Narnia, Philip Merle, News Channel 11.
Thank you, Philip. Of course, Philip's Narnia is in Kingsport.
Is everybody able to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
Since
So
opening to-
again, mentioning, this is kind of the first station. Again, each station has a sign like this, and then it has the large print as well as the Braille, and then there's an audio button that you press that actually will read to you what is on the sign. And we've just recently upgraded all of those signs because it's been about 10, 12 years since we opened it. So we've redone all the signs, and this year we added the QR code. So now people can use their phones, and that's been great because oftentimes with some of the weather conditions, severe weather, we would have some of the audio on a station here or there go out. They were not all on the same link. And so that was not good. And so now with this QR code, it's linked to our website and they have access to it all the time through their phones. So we're real excited about that. Again, what I want to speak to here, this kind of shows you a young lady reading the Braille and shows you one of the signs, and then speak to the collaborative effort of so many that were involved in this. We did work very closely with the Braille Institute in Tennessee in Knoxville. This young lady here worked with us very closely. Some Braille teachers in the area worked with us. It's just a total collaborative effort. This is just going to run you through. I will go quickly to just show you kind of the how it, where you have the first, you have the sign and the story and the audio, but you also have an exhibit where they can touch. And in this case is the wardrobe. You can smell mothballs in there. Again, that was part of the whole sensory part of it. This is Tumnus's cave, and you can kind of see again, very much you can touch and feel the rocks and the entry door. And there's also a lantern as you approach that area. This is the Beaver's house. So again, you can kind of see literally those are logs from our playground from our state park. And you can kind of see again, children love the interaction there. This is the witch's sleigh. And then moving on from there is you come around to the stone table, which kind of signifies where the lion was tied to, and you'll see a rope laying there on the ground where he is now, of course, been let loose. And this is where the deeper magic, where shows the stone table where the spell has been broken. And of course, here's the courtyard with Tumnus and the lion, where it's talking about breaking the witch's spell. And then it closes with you going out of the wardrobe, chasing the white stag, and you can see the white stag. And so it's a great place for a lot of kids like to have a lot of photographs made on the white stag, in fact. And this was a part of this process also was a sensory garden. And it was a project we did with an Eagle Scout and also with the Lions Club, but the intent being that children could touch and smell the different herbs and learn about them. So again, you can see the Braille, and then there's also an audio sensory there that you can actually, and on this, I've actually put the addresses. So if you want to actually click on and hear the audio, you can. We work with the local radio station and personalities to actually create the audio. It's very professionally done. We're very, very proud of it. And then this again kind of shows you the wildflower walk, which again takes in all of our native wildflowers around the park. And we create a special little garden boxes for each. And then there's literally, again, Braille that signifies what those are, and they're all accessible to touch. And this is another addition that we added later, was an Omni spinner. Again, I learned a little bit about the importance of that to children's development at a young age. And so that was something that when the National Lions Association was visiting our park for their convention, they wanted some way to get involved. And this was something we were looking to raise the money to provide, and we were able to add that as a result of that. Kind of in the next step to this process or phase was an interactive history and nature trail that led up to the treehouse. Obviously, to get up to the treehouse being so high overlooking the park, it took a great deal of trail to get there to meet the ADA and also make it easy for our visitors. And so basically what we try to do is then kind of include history about the park and also about the animals and things. So this is the signage, and each of these are located along rest points, because obviously, again, it's a pretty good little clip. And so we wanted to make stopping points for them along the way. So we have first, of course, the lead on the level ground is the Great Warriors Path, explaining it. Again, you have Braille. This is our first rest stop that talks about the Warriors Path, and it then has interactive mammals, which has their fur, it has scat, it has their an actual print of their claw to kind of let them feel that. So again, kind of giving them an idea. This is the second rest stop with the game trails, and it has amphibians. And then this is an interactive that spins, that talks about the interaction of a tadpole. And then there are also sound buttons on here that you can click on, and they will hear the sounds of some of the different creatures. The next one is the rest stop is about the long hunter. And this is about the different birds in the park, and they can actually lift the different birds and see what they are. And then of course, showing them what a woodpecker does to a piece of wood in the park. This is station 5, which is the settlers. And then these are different insects. And again, we have several buttons on here they can press and hear the different insect. There's some sound interaction where they can actually make a cricket sound on a piece of wood with a scraper. And then the last station right before you enter the treehouse is the tree station, which again is showcasing to them the different leaves, the different bark on the trees, and the and then of course the photographs. And then lastly takes you into the treehouse. And the treehouse, we literally have a little quiz for them that they can participate in a quiz. And this kind of shows you the inside of the treehouse as well. And then the last part of this whole development was a fully accessible amphitheater that would enable us to do programs for, again, children and adults of all ages and abilities. And we've done, of most recent, we did a comedy show for the deaf, and was very, very well received. And so we're looking to do more of those type of things to bring, again, a more diverse crowd and make it available to everyone to come to the park. That sort of concludes my program, and I'll look forward to some of the question and answer session. Thank you so much.
Mary, thank you for that extraordinary presentation about playgrounds and more. I am sure that this park will be cherished by young people for years to come. Thank you very, very much. Next up, we'll hear from Adam Flores with St. Louis Shakespeare Festival, who serves as their community engagement and education manager. Adam?
Hello, everyone. How are we doing this morning? I am doing well. I'm coming to you from my kitchen table. I'm in a blue and green plaid shirt. I have a beard and am balding gracefully, if I do say so myself. I want to talk about our tour co-production of Othello that went to 24 different parks and public locations across the region. I want to be transparent also in the sense that St. Louis Shakespeare Festival has come and talked to ACAC a few times, And I want to discuss some of our successes and then also some of the struggles that we had with this program as a way to kind of, one, be transparent about the experience, but also then to seek advice and response from the community as we traveled and did this. We took a production of Othello that was 90 minutes long with 6 actors, and they toured these 24 local parks, ranging all the way from Herman, Missouri, to Edwardsville and Belleville, Illinois, on the other side of the river. So spanning quite a range there. This production was designed specifically to exist in a van, arrive, load out into a park space, and then be performed for an audience that arrived. The hardest logistics thing for us was that every night we were in a new park space, and sometimes we had assistants, and sometimes all we had was the pre-scouting that myself and my team had done. So every night we were trying to remember which park we were at, where we were, where the best location was, is there power, all of these things. And the 2 things that we learned the quickest was that there is a real issue of accessibility to bathrooms on the north side of our region. That many of the parks in the North City, North County area have limited access to bathrooms. And the public infrastructure around the neighborhoods also did not allow for public bathrooms. So oftentimes, if there was a gas station nearby or a restaurant, they did not have public bathrooms. And so we learned really quickly that for us and our audiences, we, in the next time going around, will really need to have to bring our own restrooms, both traditional porta potties and then accessible porta potties and etc. to these locations. We're hoping that we will be able to accomplish this next year as we go into this space, but it was quite eye-opening the way that different regions, different parks had different accessibility to basic facilities. Or there would be a bathroom, but it would be in horrible disrepair and inaccessible or unuseful to us and our audiences. Or there would be a bathroom that was really, really far away and also maybe not fully accessible and engaging. So there was a kind of learning curve about not just, okay, cool, this is where the play is going to be, this is the most beautiful spot for the play, but also thinking about the full surroundings of everything that the audience and our actors would experience. This is different for us, whereas in the main stage show that we do in the park, we have kind of complete control over the Glen and everything that happens in that footprint. Whereas now we're going to different locations and have less control over these different spaces. The other thing that we learned was that a lot of these parks have been thinking about accessibility in the way that we've heard about today, and have been thinking about how do we get people into certain places. But that oftentimes comes with just simple arrival and not always the time of like full experience. And so it was beautiful just seeing that amphitheater down there in Tennessee that we just saw, that had not only beautiful access to the amphitheater, but access to the audience playing spaces. We went to lots of park amphitheaters where there was access to where the audience needed to be, but once they got there, there wasn't accessibility to the best spot. You know, they were oftentimes relegated to the side or to a corner, or had to really push themselves off-road to get to a spot where they could see and be in a good location. And so we were learning about all of these different locations and which spots had truly accessible full experiences. I will say one of the best ones that we have is January Wabash Park in Ferguson, Missouri. has an incredible amphitheater that is easily accessible, both as far as visually easy to see from the road and is easy to find with signage, but then also has specifically accessible seating for people with limited mobility that puts them right in a good spot to see amongst all of the grass. And this is one of the things that I think we are learning too, is the idea of how accessible grass seating really is to people. And this is something we've dealt with in Forest Park for a long time. Is great, you can roll on the grass, you can move on the grass, but is that really something that is safe and easy? Just because it's flat and mowed doesn't mean that it is safe and easy, especially if there's been weather or any of those other kinds of inclement issues that change the ground and its movement. We also were able to do, Mind's Eye came and did a audio description of one of our performances, and then we also had ASL interpretation for one of our performances as well. And those were both really successful opportunities to bring in new audiences to what we were trying to present and do. It is tricky too, because we're limited on how many times we can bring in interpreters and audio descriptors. And so thinking about where is the best park for these resources to be presented? You know, is it the park that is the most centrally located, or is there a park that is closer to the community and where the community needs to be? And so we're constantly thinking about that, and I'm open to all sorts of kinds of input from this group and others about what would make the most sense of where in our 24 parks to provide these resources, to make sure that they are accessible to people. Because we're really excited about the fact that this program is designed to say, in June, we do our big show and everyone comes to Forest Park. But now in August, we want to come to you and we want to be where you are and we want to engage with you and in your community. And so thinking about the ways in which we can arrive to different communities and provide them with the fullest range of accessibility is important. And I know, for instance, Megan, who works for ACAC, you know, was so excited because we were in Illinois, closer to where they live, and it was more accessible to be a 20-minute drive versus a 40 or 50-minute drive. And so we want to continue to do that as we move forward. Finding ways to go to where people are, go to where this art, this creativity is needed and wanted. So for those who were able to come, would love to hear more feedback. I wanted to just kind of express the kind of challenges that we had and the things that we're thinking about with this new program as we move forward. We also, you know, accessibility is a wide range of things. We also had a day where we arrived and none of the grass that was supposed to be the stage and the audience had been mowed for probably 3 weeks. And so it required asking a neighbor that we had just met to borrow their lawnmower to mow the stage 15 minutes before the show started, as a way to make it accessible for our actors so that they weren't acting in the weeds and whatnot. And every new location was something new and interesting to kind of figure out in ways to make it easy and accessible. That's the basics of what I wanted to talk about and all the things that we learned. And we will continue to learn and grow this program, and I'm open to all kinds of thoughts and feedback from the community about how to make this an accessible project for folks. Thanks so much.
And thank you, Adam. Most importantly, thank you for your transparency. That's not always easy to do. And I think I can speak for all of us on the call. We look forward to grappling with your challenges and how we can, in fact, perhaps turn those into opportunities as you progress with these endeavors that are so very important. So thank you. Last but certainly not least, we will hear from Jennifer Wolff, who is the manager of interpretation with the Missouri Botanical Garden. Jennifer?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer. I normally would say they save the best for last, but Mary, Karen, and Adam are hard acts to follow this morning. I would like to share with you a little bit about our children's garden. If I can get my computer to work here, I should share my screen first. All right. Andrea, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So I am a middle-aged white woman with blonde hair. This morning I am sporting a periwinkle dress, and I am joining you from my remote office in because we are still not able to be on site, and I am on site about 2 to 3 days per week. I would like to talk about our children's garden, which opened in 2006. It is roughly 2 acres. The image on the screen is a map of our children's garden. It is a little over 2 acres of lush landscape of trees and native plantings. It features a wide variety of interactives for kids and families that includes a tree house, a rope bridge, cave, swamp, Native American camp, pollination garden, a pioneer town, a splash area, edible garden, and more. We focus on connecting kids and their families with nature. We provide interactive programming with staff interpreters and volunteers on edible plants, how far our food comes, pollination, the importance of trees and native plants, nature observations, ecosystems, and habitats, as well as others. On average, we see about 100,000 visitors per year, and we average about 45% of those are kids ages 12 and under. Since we opened in 2006, we've seen just over 1.4 million visitors into our children's garden. So I'm going to walk you through the experience for our visitors currently during COVID. Here in this image is our Adventure Plaza, and what you see here is our ticket fort, which is a fort-like structure where they buy tickets. It has an entrance on the right and an exit on the left. Due to COVID, our programming had to change slightly, so there's a white tent to the right of our entrance where staff are providing a variety of different types of programming. Currently, the garden is hosting the Origami Exhibit, and so on any given day, we are offering visitors the opportunity to fold nature-inspired origami with us, which after a quarantine of 72 hours gets put on display in our Exploration Center behind the Climatron. We're also offering Pota plant programs, as well as currently, due to monarch migration, we're talking about monarchs, and visitors have the opportunity to help us tag and release monarchs so that hopefully we can have a few that make it all the way to Mexico. Once inside our children's garden, this image here shows a section with our pollination garden that has a variety of different entrances into it, both steps and ramps. To the left of the photo is our beehive that kids can walk inside or roll inside and get a feel of what it might be like inside a real beehive. Just to the left of the beehive is a section of our canopy walk that shows our climbing rope, as well as the metal staircase that it sends up into our treehouse to give visitors a bird's eye view of the children's garden. Just to the right of that is the back side of our general store, where visitors have an opportunity to learn about where food comes from. And kids have a great opportunity to play shopkeeper or store and sort fruits and vegetables in our shelving areas that are there. Here's a photo of our splash area that is hugely popular on our summer days, especially in St. Louis when the humidity is high. It has a variety of interactive water play features, water jumping jets where water squirts out of the ground on a timer system To the far right of the photo is a large transpiration model that serves as our mister that mists water all throughout the day. There's one young lady sort of in the middle of the photo that is getting ready to jump on one of our water jumpers. So they jump on it, and depending on how heavy you are, you'll get more water versus less water. There's also what we call our mushroom water system, where kids can pump the top and water squirts out into a lovely puddle that they can play in. Over the years, when the Children's Garden was built in 2006, the garden and several contractors did work to make it as accessible as possible. But as we all learn in our spaces, we always have an opportunity to do more. And in 2007, the garden worked with the Arbor Day Foundation and Dimensions Educational Research Foundation to renovate what was our tot lot, or our little kid area, which I nicknamed the hot lot because it was on the hottest side of the garden, the children's garden, with limited trees. And so when the sun came in at the middle of the day, it really heated up the sand area and some of the climbing features, and it really wasn't the most comfortable place to play for little kids. And so we renovated that area and installed a Nature Explore classroom that has a variety of mini experiences: nature, art, music and movement, building. There is a climbing wall or climbing rock area, log climbers. We put in a small mini little prairie walk. And within the last, I think it was in 2018, 2019, we renovated the music and movement area to be an all-inclusive area that includes a variety of different types of drums. We have a box turtle drum towards the middle of the photo there. There's a rain wheel that simulates what a rain stick, if you're familiar with that, does, but this is a wheel that we can leave outside all year long. There are marimbas and different types of chimes that use mallets. And what's not in this picture is we do have the tall drums that can be played with your hands. We originally had a jail that housed our invasive plants, which fell victim to rot, which gave us the opportunity to add an edible garden. And so what we decided to do was do a combination of planting styles. So we have direct sow in the ground at a low level, and then we've added a variety of raised planters throughout this area, so that we can provide hands-on experiences with plants at a variety of different levels. We do have a long-term plan of adding an all-inclusive edible garden with all raised beds, but funding always provides a few barriers for us, as I'm sure this group is familiar with. So that's one project that's on the horizon. In our general store, when it was originally built, most everything was built at an adult height. And in a children's garden, we recognized that we didn't have as many things at kid height as we should, nor were certain things accessible. So as things have met their lifespan, we have worked to change them. So this here is an image of our general store counter, or our store clerk's counter. And we worked with a local fabricator to design a new counter that had limited shelving under it, but wide open spaces. And it has 2 levels so that individuals could wheel underneath it. We also have a small step crate that's not shown in this picture that kids can put underneath it if they want to elevate themselves higher. And we only have shelves in the middle that allow for the storage of artificial fruits and vegetables, breads, baskets, and dishes. With our programming, we have a staff of 12 interpreters that are in the children's garden as well as in our other venues. And we recognize that many of our programs we were offering on tables, and it offered an experience at a certain height. And so we've been experimenting with offering programming seated on the ground so that we can get at most participants' levels. Here is our friend Kara. She is offering a program on nature art and using natural materials to create art. And so she's using a variety of different types of leaves and flowers, roots, sticks, twigs, sections of tree trunks and tree branches, mosses. So a variety of different tactile elements, different textures and shapes for kids to be able to create nature art with. Here is our young friend who is exploring trees and the importance of trees and parts of trees. And so we started looking at the types of educational hands-on materials that we were offering and trying to ensure that they were usable by anyone who was coming to us and participating in a program. So our young friend here is learning about the parts of trees and how they are similar to our own human body, and that you can't see it in the picture, but she's wearing a rubber band type structure with strings on the bottom to simulate roots, just as our feet serve as our support structure. She's donning an apron that we've painted to look similar to bark. So just as in the trunk of a tree, just as the trunk of the tree serves as its support structure, so do our trunks. On her arm, she has brown socks that we have cut off the feet to simulate or show branches, just as our arms are kind of our branches. And she has felt leaves in her hands. So leaves and our fingers, we like to say, are similar. She's also learning about trees as homes. She has a wonderful little owl friend that is nestled in her arms or branches to learn about the different animals, insects, and birds that find homes in trees. This is a photo of our Pota plant program. And so we offer this several days a week throughout the summer with a variety of sensory plants as well as vegetables and flowers. So I believe this young kid and his grandma are planting basil. And so kids are able to take a peat pot and fill it with soil, and then staff provide a small plant plug that they plant themselves. Prior to COVID, we also had a watering bucket where kids could also water their plant, and then we put it in a plastic bag to have it make it safely home so they can replant it once they're there. Due to COVID, we've had to make a few modifications. So we put the water in the plant and put it in the baggie, which takes away a little bit of the sensory element for kids. But it helps with some of our sanitization requirements and some of the other things that are of concern right now. As with all of this group, we've talked over the years that we all still recognize that we in our spaces, despite best efforts, we still have barriers. And so this image shows our tree house that does have a staircase that is needed in order to climb up it. And we also have a rock wall at this side of the canopy walk. What you can't see here is at one end on the left is also a rope climb, and on the other side is a tall or long rope for kids to climb up or climb down. So unfortunately, on this side of our canopy walk, not everyone has the ability to enter and exit this area. If you've not been to the children's garden before, once you enter past the ticket for it, there's 4 points of entry, and kids and families have the opportunity to choose their path. Once inside, it all commingles. So this picture here is of our settlers path, which is one of 2 accessible pathways into the children's garden. It's made of pavers, and it descends down into the children's garden to a covered bridge. Just past that is our botanist path, which is a wooden boardwalk that will lead to the canopy walk throughout the children's garden. So these are our 2 accessible pathways. This is our adventurer's path. So it is on top of our cave structure. And when I became responsible for the children's garden in 2008, I was told that this was an accessible entrance into the children's garden. And I asked how it was to be utilized, and actually watched a colleague from another institution who has a child who is in a wheelchair try to utilize this. And I will admit and be completely transparent with this group, I was a little bit embarrassed. There to the left here is a tall step that is not quite accessible, but it has handrails. To the right at what we'll call the main entrance is 2 steps. The entrance on the left is a wheelchair transfer station. So an individual who utilizes a wheelchair can roll up to this and use the metal handrails to pull themselves out or have assistance from whomever they're with. What was described to me is that the individual then can crawl across the rock over to the slide, and then they can descend down into the children's garden via the slide. So here, this picture shows the slide to the right and the staircase to the left. And so the thought was the individuals, caregivers, or adults that the person is with can go down the staircase to meet them at the bottom. However, if you're utilizing a mobility device, you can't really take it down a staircase. So in order for the person who's bringing you your mobility device to get down to you, you have to sit at or wait at the bottom of the slide, and they have to walk all the way around the settler's path, which can be a little bit of a distance, especially on a busy day with the children's garden, and there's a line of kids waiting behind you to slide down the slide. So this is really not something that I promote as an accessible entrance, and one area that is on the docket for renovation at some point in the near future. But what I did want to share with you today is this is our Discoverer's Path, and this is a project that is on our horizon. This is the fourth entrance or entry point into the children's garden. It is also not accessible. Here, visitors make a choice to either descend down into the children's garden using a wood slat bridge, which is the entrance there towards the middle of the photo, or towards the far left of the photo, there is a rope bridge. So it's a single, very thick rope surrounded by cabling to keep you safe as you balance your way down into the children's garden. And so the rope bridge has exceeded its lifespan and is been closed this year because it's no longer safe for anyone to use, which gave us the opportunity to really think about this entrance and see if what was within the realm of possibility to really make this more of an inclusive entrance for all visitors. So here's another photo looking from the bottom up of the wood slat bridge to the left and the rope bridge to the right. So we have engaged with SWT to have them help us consider some concepts about what we could do to reconceptualize this space and offer a third accessible, inclusive entrance into the children's garden. What you see here is an image of what's existing. And so here's our two rope bridges, which once you're down at the bottom, takes you through our Native American camp and around our pond and over to the lock and dam area. So we don't have a whole lot of square footage to work with. We're also working within the existing landscape of a lot of very mature trees and some very substantial root systems, as well as a pond feature that's been in this location for as long as I can remember, because it was there before the children's garden was built. It has a variety of runoffs and is one of the lower points of the garden. So when there's a substantial rain, this pond gets pretty filled with water. This is the concept that I wanted to share with this group and welcome any feedback or ideas, either during our conversation today or feel free to reach out to me afterwards. We would actually take out the entire entrance and all bridges. We're considering adding a wooden boardwalk that actually will zigzag over and across the pond, actually getting visitors in the canopy and at different levels of the trees. So it'll take you, let's see, there's one zigzag to another boardwalk area, and then another zigzag down to the lower area. In between some of those zigzags, we are considering including a net climber, as well as another rope climb, as well as another slide to provide a variety of different experiences depending on your ability, your interest, or even your comfort level, because we do know that we have visitors who aren't necessarily comfortable climbing net climbers or going down slides. We also will add a variety of other experiential elements along the walkway. My hope is to add a variety of different scopes that can allow visitors to look down into the water, as well as other programming elements. Now we're at the concept stage, and I'm sure that funding will be somewhat of a barrier for us, given the current situation that we're all in with COVID and such. But our hope is that we can put this in. I don't know if it'll be next year or the year after, but that's where we're headed. So I just wanted to share this new exciting project with the group, and I welcome any feedback or questions. So I thank you for your time today.
And we thank you, Jennifer. You started off by saying, you know, you normally say you save the best for last. And I'd say it's evident in your presentation that the garden is in fact saving the best for the best. You all are putting your best effort to provide accessibility to the community, and for that, we thank you. I have learned about so many amazing opportunities happening in our own backyard, and I know many of you are learning these for the first time, and that's evident by the excitement in the chat. It's 9:55 on my clock, and we have just a few minutes, probably time for maybe one question, but I do want to encourage those of you that are with us today to reach out to the presenters if you have more conversation. We could go on for the remainder of the afternoon, I'm sure, in discussion, but I see that a friend of mine and yours too has left a comment in our Q&A, so I want to open up the floor, if it's okay, for Joan Lipkin, who has a comment. Joan, if we can make you able to speak, perhaps you can share your concern that may be perhaps maybe the only question we'll have time for, unfortunately, but I'm sure it'll be a good one. So Joan, we're going to turn it over to you for our Q&A chat.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for this incredible webinar and for such great facilitation, Andrea. So I want to share an experience, and I think that it might be useful for everyone in terms of their programming. I was filling out a ticket form for the rep, and it was performance specific in that they ask you what you need in terms of mobility and audio issues, but there's no place on the form to indicate other needs. For example, I'm getting ready to have an eye surgery, so I don't necessarily, I'm talking about myself, but I think that there are a lot of people who may be sharing my experience. I don't necessarily need audio description, although I really appreciate that it's available for people who do need it. But many of our performance venues and also our cultural institutions don't think about proximity to the stage. There's never a place that you can indicate that you need to sit close. They ask if you need audio description. They ask if you have a mobility issue about where you need to be on the aisle or whatever. And I just think this is kind of issues about vision, especially with an aging population, but this is a gray area that we need to expand the way we talk about it, the kinds of things that we offer. For example, if somebody was going to go to a performance in the park, they really might need to sit up close. Does that make sense, Andrea?
Makes perfect sense. It does.
And there's no way to, in most of the forms, there's no way to indicate that. And I think that it's also sometimes difficult for people to ask for those needs to be met until the culture shifts a little bit more, right?
Yes, 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 yes. Very important points. And I know Megan with Mind's Eye is watching closely, and I'm hopeful that this conversation will continue sooner than later, because as Adam mentioned, we're all, I think, grappling with ways to make our community more accessible, and we have questions, and we are trying to all make this work. Joan, I want to just take a moment to personally thank you for all of the work that you've done in community as it relates to accessibility and performance, and making this world a better place. So thank you for your comment, and I'm hopeful that we can come to a resolution in a continued conversation. I started off by saying accessibility for all is not just important, but it is in fact necessary. And it is my hope that in today's presentation, you too are walking away with the same sentiment. Much work has been done, but there is much work still yet to be done. And I'm hopeful that as a community, we can move forward in continued conversation, because the more we talk and learn about what everyone else is doing, I think I don't know about you, but I'm invigorated and inspired to do more in my own space, not only personally, but as well as professionally. Again, I want to take this time to thank Mind's Eye for the opportunity to facilitate. I'd also like to thank all of our amazing presenters today for all that you have offered. And I'm going to turn it now back over to Mind's Eye and wish you all a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm really sorry, guys, that we got to cut this short. This has been great. I wish we had more time for questions. Remember that I will be sending out emails with contact information. So if you have questions, go ahead and email them to me, and I will try to get you answers. But it's 9:59 and we've got to get our service providers out at 10. So we're going to stop now. I have a couple announcements before we go. This weekend, there is a Mind's Eye audio description training that I'm hosting. It will be via Zoom. You can find it, you can scan that code right there, and also at bit.ly/audio description training, or email me directly, and I'll get you some more information on that. Also coming soon, for those of you who have been with us for a while, January, we had our IDEA Awards. We're going to have those again next January. So be on the lookout for nomination forms for organizations, individuals, businesses who exemplify our values of inclusivity, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And just my own soapbox for a moment, please remember that there's no such thing as inclusivity, diversity, and equity if there is not accessibility. FYI. Also, Mind's Eye is still looking for paid contractor positions for individuals who are blind or visually impaired for quality control at Mind's Eye. And we have one, and we're working on adding some others. So also contact me. Also, one last thing, we now have ACAC sponsorships available. Believe it or not, it does actually cost money still to put on these ACACs, even via Zoom. So there are several levels available. So please contact Laura about that. We will also put that information in the email that I'll be sending out. And I'm just going to say that email is probably not going to go out till next week, mainly because of that audio description training that I'm having this weekend. So speaking of those sponsors, we want to thank our very first sponsor, Amy of AEG CFO Services, for sponsoring the real-time translation today. And of course, we want to thank our regular sponsors, Lighthouse for the Blind St. Louis, the Arts and Education Council, and the United Way of Greater St. Louis. And of course, to Adam, Karen, Mary, Jennifer, and Andrea, and our service providers. Always thank your service providers, guys. Hannah and Chantel from LAMP, our ASL interpreters, LaDonna, who is our CART interpreter, and April from Mind's Eye, who is our audio describer. And of course, thanks to all of you. Sorry, we didn't have more time for questions today. Please remember to fill out the survey. And please send me any more questions that you have, and join our Facebook ACAC group. And we will see you on November 17th. Thanks, everybody.